across another goddamn horror podcast with Graham Faye, Jonas Barnes, and Ryan Danley.
Welcome, everybody, to yet another goddamn horror podcast. I am one of your hosts. I am Ryan Danley, coming to you from Portland, Oregon. And it's actually kind of like muggy here today, which is like really weird for the winter. And I was really sick last week. I got like the flu, guys.
You almost died.
Yeah, you were sick as shit.
I was sick. Like I had to cancel a podcast interview.
We were minutes away from it.
I had to cancel 3 comedy shows. I was having like fever dreams. It was like going, like everything in my mind was going like a million miles an hour, and I couldn't close my eyes without thinking. It was really awful. So you almost lost me. Y'all almost lost me. I wish that it was just like man cold. Like I could, like man cold would have been fine. This was like legit flu, and on top of man cold. And so I nearly died. So I just want you guys to feel really sorry for me. And
I do.
You do.
We did.
I feel super sorry
the whole time.
All the time. Before that,
I just need some love, and I'm on a quest to do 300 sets this year, comedy sets, and I fell behind because of my sickness. So now I have to like double up. So Graham,
yeah, I got actually some kind of cool news for all of us. And then just kind of me and Jonas and one of them, but everybody would probably be stoked. I just found out Cannibal Mukbang is coming out VOD March 25th and Blu-ray April 22nd. You've heard us talk about Cannibal Mukbang. It's like my favorite movie that came out last year that hasn't actually come out, but it's coming. I saw it over a year ago, I think. But anyway, it's finally coming out. People are going to get to see this fucking amazing movie by Amy Kuge. I'm really excited. The other really cool thing that's happening.
We actually have an episode with Amy Kuge, so if you are interested in Cannibal Mukbang, please go back and check out the episode with.
She's one of my favorite people in the horror community. She's super great. I've met her now. It's a really fun so movie, cool to me. Yeah. She rules. Anyway, also, friend of the show, Heather Buckley, her friend Jess Wee is opening the Night Owl Video in Williamsburg, which is all fucking physical media, and I am so excited about that shit.
I'm not gonna have any money left.
Yeah, I'm gonna be up there awesome. In Williamsburg a lot more than I want to be. So, but that's super fucking exciting. Night Owl Video. Go check out their Instagram. What's that?
It's gonna be in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Yeah. Brooklyn. Okay.
Yeah. I have some new haters on the internet that happened right before we got on the show, which is cool.
Oh, let's hear.
I talked shit about a racist, so I'm not going to say her name because fuck her. But I talked shit about her on Facebook, and it took about 10 minutes for her to blast it on Instagram, and all of a sudden my inbox blew up, but it was in the requests folder. So I was like, oh, I never get like inbox requests. So I looked at them, and it was just a bunch of chats. Just a bunch of chats. So I'm like, yes, like cool. That means it got to her. So fuck her. It was great. I never get haters on stuff like that. So that's fantastic.
Fuck her too. Yeah, I
just don't really understand. I just don't really understand how. We don't want to say her name because we don't want to pub her any more than she needs to. But she's just like one of those comedians. She's like a super right wing comedian, which I just think is
edgelord MAGA shit.
Yeah, I just think that it's like I just don't really think that I mean, of course, like clearly we're like racism is just so foul and just so it's so terrible, but like everything, it's not even just that with these people, like it's like their entire being is always so terrible. And like
also they're technically their jokes are trash.
Well,
yeah, if you take racism out of it,
even if you take all the bullshit and hateful shit out of their jokes, they're boring.
Right.
As fuck.
Well, Racism. I had a new comedian ask me once, like, why their racist jokes weren't like landing, and I said because racism's not funny. Anyways, good.
Yeah, right
Hate
there.
us
There
all.
you go.
If you hate Jonas, you hate me, and you hate Graham.
You hate
and
me.
We're good with it. We're good with it. So,
Yeah.
especially if you are one of them. So, because that shit don't fly. Are we ready for our guest?
Yeah, let's get into
Damn
some
right we
good
are.
news.
We're ready for our guest.
I forgot to do my jazz hands. I'm sorry. I was.
That's okay. No.
We'll do
Sorry.
enough
Damn
jazz
it.
hands. We'll do enough jazz hands while we're reading. Author of some of my favorite books from last year. Books I've suggested: Crossroads, Below, Day of the Door. A number of other short stories. Welcome, Laurel Hightower, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank you for coming on to the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're in Kentucky.
I am.
Like our friend Jamie Alvey. So what goes on in Kentucky that makes horror awesome? Like why what's in the water in the bourbon there that's making the
Well, I would say a lot of it is a reaction to existing in the same state as Mitch McConnell. Just like when you exist in a state of existential horror at all times, it sort of pumps up your ability to. But yeah, other than that, it's probably the horses in the bourbon. For me anyway, I am a very cliche Kentucky girl. I am a bourbon drinker. I am a former horseback rider. Resulted in several of my many concussions, so I stopped doing that. But yeah, I don't know. It's also just I kind of smack talk it a little bit, but I love it here. I love this state. It's pretty fucking awesome, and especially because we have a governor that's worth a good goddamn right now. So it's just not always the case with us.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell is kind of a cryptid. You know what I mean? Like he is like he's like
a living body horror.
He's like a body horror. Like he's not like a human being. Like when you look at him, you're like, I don't know if he's like a human being or not. Like he is kind of a creature. Like,
but like cryptids are just inherently cool.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't. I think of him more like Indiana Jones. When he chooses the wrong chalice. And he just sort of, but he doesn't quite ever reach the point of just turning into dust, and that's sad. It's just waiting.
He's very sluggy.
He looks to me like in Men in Black, like the Edgar suit after.
Oh yeah! Oh my god!
The thing has left. After he's left the body, though, like it left the skin.
Now I'm just gonna be waiting for him to say like sugar in water, like just more. Every time I see him now, I'm gonna expect that out of him.
I really fell in love with your stuff last year. So I got on a tangent about it. I had heard about your stuff on Book Talk, which has actually been really successful for spreading the word of independent.
Really has, yeah.
And horror Book Talk is a really cool chunk of social media. As far as social media goes, it does have some great moments, and that is one of them. And I had heard about Below a lot, which is I'm a big creature feature fan. But I ended up listening to Crossroads first, and it was advertised to me, and I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And I absolutely fell in love with you, and then read Below, and then Day of the Door, and what a great series of books to go through, because they're all distinctly different, but they all kind of hold on to a similar sort of vein through them all. How did you get into this world of horror? What kind of brought you into that?
So I would say with which you're specifically referring to that trio of it in particular, because that's a good point. Those three I think they have more similarities to each other than most of my other work does. Whispers in the Dark was my debut. It is more of a paranormal police procedural sort of a thing. It's what I was doing before I really discovered indie horror, because I'm incurably literal. And just I don't really generally I didn't used to understand symbolism very well, so I just was A to B sort of thing. And when I got into indie horror, when I fell down that rabbit hole and realized how much there was, and I started reading Jonathan Jans and Haley Piper, and R.J. Joseph and Nadia Bulkin, and all these just amazing writers. I guess Nadia is probably more considered crime, although there's a lot of horror in there too. But in any case, it was sort of the thing where, and Haley in particular, her ears are burning right now. She's like, God damn it, she's talking about me again. I do this all the time. But showed me that how much could be accomplished with it, that you didn't have to go at things, directly A to B, that you could sort of say, there is a feeling that I want to put out there. There's a feeling I want people to feel, and I'm going to try to go at it this way. So Crossroads was my sophomore effort, and it was so different. And it took me about 4 months to write, which was great because Whispers in the Dark took like 11 years. And so it was more just like me sort of gaining ground and figuring out what could be done with it that didn't have to be written in such a mainstream fashion. In particular, the fact that it was a novella. At the time, I'm certainly not going to, pretend that I invented novellas, anything like that. But I wasn't seeing a lot of them being sold. And in fact, when I pitched it to my agent at the time, he was like, "Nah, novellas don't sell." And I was like, "All right, BRB, I'm going to go, I'm going to go do it myself." And I did, and I was glad, because to me, it really feels like that was always the right length for that particular story, and it allowed me to access people in a certain way. And then, it's sort of, I don't know, it's in a way, it was a confidence building thing of like just letting me find my feet and not question so much what I was saying and how I needed to say it, but also kind of trust the reader some, to recognize that like I didn't have to spoon feed everything, and that people would be able to read something like that and just reach that emotional point themselves, kind of thing.
Sure. I personally am such a huge fan of novellas, and it's one of the great parts
Same.
of independent horror is the novella, and there is no, because in a lot of novellas, like, I mean, maybe it's because as a comic, like we like cutting the fat off of stuff, you know what I mean? But like generally there's no drag in the second act. There's no make weight. There's no this little extra story here to try to, you know what I mean, to drum up but more book. It's like it's to the point, and it loves it. And I love like specifically in Crossroads, which is a lot about grief, and not even a lot about grief. It seemed like a lot about grief, and going through it is like the points of it were so good that the story was told so well, with like it concentrated in that length. Like it didn't need to be watered down anymore. We didn't need to elaborate on anything. We understood what you were trying to say with that story, and that was a really great thing. So I'm very glad you made that choice.
It was you gave the reader the benefit of the doubt, and you just dumped them right in the middle of the story. Just kind of starts like right away with Crossroads specifically, and but you learn real quick, and you understand what's going on from just the beginning, and just the way you set it up that way, and it's perfect for a novella, or so I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I think with Crossroads, really quick, I want, like, the thing with Crossroads and that got me is that grief is hard to translate into books, I think, because you can see it on film, you can see it, sometimes you can hear it in music, but like the visual representation of it in film a lot of times has that extra special impact that hits you. But I think what you did with Crossroads is you illustrated what grief is in that story in a way that made you actually feel it, and I think that's a tough thing to do in books. So shout out to you for doing that, because it's something that, like, grief is one of those things that I think is a very effective storytelling tool as well, like, because you can get a lot of things to come across when you talk about grief, and what you did with it in that story in that book was fantastic. So yeah, definitely really, really good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And that is, it's been one that was just immensely rewarding as well, because of because there were a few aspects of it. There was the grief aspect of her loss, but also some of the elements of her fertility struggles that I referenced in there. That was something that I had to deal with, and I really just think as much as, you know, royalties and money and things like that are lovely, and they are, those connections, when you have someone read something that you've written and send you a message and say, this was me, I felt this, you know, this made me feel seen, this made me feel less alone, you put into words something that I felt and couldn't say, like, there is nothing more rewarding than that from a writing perspective. There's just not. And it's, you know, that is, I don't, you know, you don't sit down and say, how can I specifically reach a person today? But you put yourself out there with the hope and expectation that maybe it speaks to somebody. Because I mean, those are the stories that stick with me. The ones that I say, wow, I didn't know how to say this, you know, but I felt it. So.
And
that's really, yeah.
Yeah, and I really love that. And that's what's like when I first listened to Crossroads, that's when I immediately knew I needed you on the show, because I wanted to talk about these sorts of, you know, and then as I went into and read Below, which, like you said, kind of follows, there's more similar, like, there's horror that's using people to process sort of challenging moments in their lives, and you know, and you know, particularly women, and it's you know, and you know, like the issues brought up in Below. I love it because I'm a creature feature sort of fan. I love like if you really like break it down, what I like I just like an old school horror monster thing, you know what I mean? And to be able to take what's going on there, you know, with this sort of like almost cryptid sort of reality and the creepiness of the world around it, and then it kind of add this sort of like emotional journey that somebody's going through in there, on that backdrop, is just some of my favorite things. And I think what makes horror a lot, you know what I mean? Like, you know, horror's always been used to sort of like tell these tales, and so it's you know, to tell these human tales with this like sort of, you know, extra world, and you really did that great in Below. And you know, also another novella, but really reads like a novel, you know. So it's I don't know. I love Below. How did
Thank you.
Did you have a similar sort of writing experience with that, or was it?
Oh my God, Below is nuts. My publisher was like, "Were you on cocaine when you wrote this?" And I was like, "No, I was not." But
did you write Maximum Overdrive? Is that what happened?
I wish, right? But it was one of these weird things that was like, I sort of like had the idea for, and then once the pieces clicked on what I wanted to do with it, I wrote it in 3.5 weeks, and that's not normal for me. But I just sat there and banged it out, and it just all like completely came together. And I think like Max told me, Max is my publisher at Ghoulish, said like, okay, well, you know, it reads like a fever dream. It reads like you just like did a bunch of coke and sat up and like, you know, wrote this whole thing. And I'm just like, I'm going to choose to take that as a compliment. No, that was a very different writing experience for me. And, it was kind of that Below is also what made me realize that I was like, oh, okay, I actually can't write without feminism. Like I was like, I know what I'm going to do. Right. I'm going to write just a fucking straight creature feature. Like, you know, I don't have to tackle any of these social issues, whatever. Then I'm like, nope, feminism to the fucking core. I can't pop. And then I'm just like, you know, I'm just going to embrace it. This is me. This is what I do, you know? Yeah. And I feel like it worked well with that character because, you know, it was a lot of the things that she was kind of trying to work through, because I'm sure that you guys get asked this too, in particular in times when the world is absolute shit. You know, it's like, why horror at this time? Like, why not something that's more comforting? Why don't you want to escape into something different? And it's like, well, it's because I can hold these two things. You know, I can hold this horror that is something that's more palatable to me, that in a lot of ways helps me process things, and also I have a certain level of control over, and I have to hold that at the same time as all this other stuff that's going on. And so in a lot of ways, that's kind of what was happening with Addie. You know, she's dealing with almost the more like sort of existential, like, who am I now that I've gotten a divorce? You know, is there even anyone there? You know, how do I find this? Can I do this without, you know, sliding back and asking for help? Plus, holy shit, what is that glowing thing, and why is it trying to eat other things, you know? But so it's, you know, I kind of liked holding those two things like at the same time like that, because I don't know, I feel like that's what we kind of all have to do on a daily basis.
Right. I also like, I wanted to mention this because like what you just said about why horror when, you know, the world is shit. And I think this translates to horror books too. In horror, a lot of times horror is cathartic, because a lot of times in horror, the bad guy loses. Like, even if you don't think that's going to happen in the beginning, by the end of the movie or the end of the book or the end of the story, the bad guy does not win. Like, there's, it's very cathartic in that sense that, like, yeah, turmoil is there, but you can escape into horror, and you can also escape into, like, the fantasy aspect of it and all that stuff. But there is always that underdog story. Like, in some fashion, there's always that underlying thing where it's like the thing that shouldn't win doesn't. Like, it always gets it in the very end, which is good. I like that about it. And that's like 90% of horror. Every now and then there's that one that comes along where the bad guy wins.
I'd say recent horror is the evil's been winning a lot.
There's been a lot of delicious.
But also you can walk away from it at the end.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then you can be like, that was really well written, and praise the people that made it, and it feels good. Right. Whereas when you see what's going on in real world, you can't be like, well, they're doing a great job scaring the fuck out of me.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just mad at them.
At some point, it just ends up we've been punked like the whole time.
Oh,
like, oh my god, you guys didn't really think that anyone would. This is hard. This is no.
That's why we haven't seen Ashton Kutcher for so long. He's been waiting to pop out and say that we've been punked. Like,
please, I would love to fucking believe that. Plus, I have to just find it even on the bleak ones. Like, it's like, I can absolutely accept a world overrun by zombies better than I can accept what the fuck's going on right now.
Yeah,
like, is it bleak?
1,000%.
Sure. Is it as bleak as real life?
No, absolutely not.
I've always said that everybody like is afraid of the lizard people running the world, and I'm like, that's far cooler than what's really happening. The world is just being run by a bunch of assholes. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I would love like lizard people. You'd be like, oh, okay.
Oh, I get it.
Right. Like,
give that motherfucker a hot rock and some crickets, and you'll be fine.
Hell Comes to Frogtown sounds kind of dope right now, actually. Like,
yeah, I mean, give
me that over what the fuck's happening at the moment. Like,
all of this sort of coalesces into what I would say is those two books really do coalesce into Day of the Door, which is the longer of it, but seems to tackle a lot of these similar issues, but a little bit more. The scope is a little wider, and it's a little bit, it's a haunted house story, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Thanks.
It is easily one of the best books I read last year, and I read a lot of books, and I actually even had to, like, when we first started talking, had to tell you that how much I preferred the mother character. Why am I forgetting her name right now? Because I'm
Stella.
She was like my favorite character last year because she was a very real character. She is a terrible villain, but also, oh boy, there's some heavy stuff going on behind Stella and her. And I really like the way that it's written, and like how you address like sort of like generational trauma, and how you know what I mean, like, and how in the end Stella, I won't give it away, but there's not like any big spoilers in it. It's just a complicated story, like humans are complicated, and really like. I was so impressed with, like, when we first started talking, I'm like, by the way, I just got to bring up that Stella was like, sorry, I had to geek on it for a minute, because I was just like, I just want you to know that I think the Stella character is really fantastic, and like, just because you read books, and it's like, and like I meet all books where they're at, you know what I mean? I don't need like, but when you get those like certain like real people that have like a specific thing that I think a lot of us understand, whether it's a parent that dumps their own trauma on you, and like you can be mad at them, but you realize that trauma was done to them too, and like, you know what I mean, and like a lot of that, and it's like when you can kind of like get those like little moments of like, oh yeah, that's a really fantastic thing as a reader, and it really like, it's really cathartic, you know what I mean? So that's why I really love the book in general, and then specifically how you wrote Stella.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I've had a lot of people really connect with Stella, and I'm always like, thank you, and I'm sorry. You know, it's seems very prevalent, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of parents out there, and sometimes their mothers who are good at punishing their families for things that were expected of them at one point.
I want to go trauma. Get out of here.
I want to go back just a little bit to Jonas was talking about how it's easy to get grief across in film and music, and it's not as easy in books. And I was just thinking about that, and I'm a little high, but that's all right. And so maybe this is weird. Maybe this is weird, but grief is a very soundless feeling. Like it's deafeningly silent, but the easiest way to recognize it is through sound.
Right.
Yep.
Which is, I mean, I guess, but I was hoping there was more.
You might be high, but that actually makes sense. Don't worry.
But that
was one of those marijuana things that totally actually fucking made 100% sense. So
well, that's what I work for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to give it a good look.
Yeah.
But
you ever had grief on weed, man?
But yeah, I think you get a lot. But Dana Door deals a lot with grief and a lot with so how do you build you go from a couple books that are really heavily focused on one person, how do just as a writer myself, did you really expand your outline of that? How does that, because you have a lot of different humans with a lot of different experiences going through there, so there's a lot of different
in the Day of the Door,
yeah
yes, I'm an outliner.
Right.
Hardcore. I don't do super detailed ones, but yeah, if the part of the reason my first book took me 11 years is I did an outline. Mm-hmm. And so, I would see a butterfly and run off down that plot line, and suddenly there were ghosts everywhere, and none of it made any sense, and none of them were related to the other ones, sort of thing. So yes, definitely I do that. And one thing that I didn't really think I would ever do, and I've been told by other writers that there's no reason to do it, that you don't need it, but for me, it actually does work very well to really kind of pin down the theme that I want to convey. And it doesn't mean I have to stick to it like a high school essay, but I want to know what am I trying to say? What feeling do I want to evoke here? And so in that one, it just so happened, that in order to convey what I wanted to, which was primarily generational trauma, the effects on adult children, the blame levels, and how you reconcile how a parent maybe treats you as a child, and how you reconcile who you are as an adult with all of those things. To me, that always had to be a story told from multiple children, from because there are so many different ways to internalize that, and to to the sort of adult that you become, and one of the other things that I do is I have an absolutely marvelous therapist, and I have for a number of years. She's great, and I know that most people, a large number of people, have a hard time accessing therapy, be it because of health insurance, money, finding somebody, having the time, or whatever. And I love to slip therapy into my writing, because there are just messages sometimes that hit me so hard that I'm like, people need to hear this, and and hopefully internalize it. So there's so much in the way of self-hatred for most of these characters. That to me, that was one of the biggest grief points, is that these are people who were programmed to be a very specific way. There was no way they could have possibly been anything else, because in their formative years they were treated a certain way, they were denied support, they were denied the sort of things that help build healthy children. And they hate who they are because of that. And what's worse is the people who created them that way hate them for it as well. So they're dealing with the double pain and betrayal of being programmed this way, molded into it like clay, and then the creator hating that. And that's kind of a rough thing. So yeah, it was one of those things that always needed to be told from all those multiple perspectives. And I didn't plan it this way, but I was on Staring into the Abyss last year, and Vitlame mentioned, and again, I didn't think about it at the time, but the four Lasco kids are all manifesting the four different essentially reactions to trauma. You have fight, flight, fawn, and freeze. And again, I didn't mean to say like, all right, you're going to be this Care Bear, and you're going to be that Care Bear.
Right.
But it was more just like these characters, that's how they were in my head. And those were the things that they were dealing with. And, I wanted to explore those things because it's interesting too, like some of the people who've identified with it, have identified with a specific type of character. I think I act like Nate, but I wish I acted like Ari, or I think I act like Katie and I wish, and all these sorts of things. And that's interesting to me too, because not only are you dealing with this, and all of these are reasonable, normal responses to trauma, none of which should invoke any shame in anyone, but obviously they do. I don't know, just to be able to tackle that too, like it's just there's so much. And I know that I'm rambling. Part of it has to do with this is sort of my writing process too, is sort of like rambling, in my head on sort of the things I want to convey. Because one of the other things that I do is I read a lot of Buddhist Dharma sort of things. And that's been really helpful for me as far as like getting my head around some of the things that I struggle with. And one of the biggest things that humans struggle with, one of the biggest things that causes the most suffering is struggling against emotions. I do that constantly. I feel like I shouldn't be angry right now. I shouldn't be sad. So instead of just sitting with it and be like, man, I'm fucking sad, and just letting that sit and letting that process, I don't, and that's a big part of what the characters in this book do. They spend so much time fighting against who they were made to be, and, that they don't even have time to find anything else. So I don't know. This one was really, it just, I was able to say a lot of stuff in it that I don't know that I probably haven't even completely answered the question, but
no, it's no, this is exactly what I like.
Yeah.
So I really dug Day of the Door for a lot of what you're talking about. It's great. It's actually, this book created my huge anti Goodreads feeling, because it started my first thing that there was a lot of people who said they low started and said they did DNF'd, which became this rallying point. If you could ask these guys now, I post that if you did not finish a book, you cannot I am sorry, you are not allowed to review it, because this book spends about half of it in I hate the term slow burn, but I'm just going to say like setting up these complicated relationships between human beings, and like it's so good and it's so well written, and then like, so if you don't like books that are doing that, okay, but the last half of the book, but the last half of the book is pedal to the floor, and it's really like a beautiful dichotomy of those things. And like when I say like I love this book, and I spent a lot of time thinking about it after it was done. And so I hate Goodreads and Yelp and all
went to war,
all of that crap anyways, and I try to offset it by leaving bad reviews, but that's my I go through, and if I see bad reviews, like if somebody didn't like something, okay, that's fine. But if you leave a bad review, I leave a bad review of your review. But Day of the Door is like the perfect example of like what a flawed system that it is, because if you did not finish this book, you do not deserve because this book goes right to the last page, and it's a lot, and it tackles a lot of things, and and you need to read it from that point of view. It's like what you're trying to convey here is like true literature, examination of human beings, and it's in there, and I have nothing but praise for this this book. So so like just listening to you talk about like the process of it, like I love it. Like it's just like it's a really cool, like cool to hear how like artists come up through these things. And like, and I knew that the feminism was coming through in your book, and I liked it. And I think specifically with the mother figure in there, like, and addressing the problems of a lot of the weird clunky relationships between people is really like a fascinating thing to. And so thank you for putting out a book that kind of cut that into such a good narrative, and also like fun scary horror, you know what I mean? Like, so like the damn locked room, like the whole time I was like, oh, get in the room, I need to know what's in the room, you know what I mean? Like it's like, so like what's beyond the door.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So that's it's I started like a good read war about it, not just about your book but just books in general on it. And that kind of brings me to my next. So, like, you've been writing and things like that, and like, yes, book talk has been absolutely fantastic. But how do you feel about like the world of the state of writing in general? Because it does seem like books are popular right now. Would you agree with that, or?
I think so. Yeah. It's so interesting because, you always hear these like studies or these statistics like, oh, most adults only read one book a year or never pick up a book at all. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know those fuckers, like, because that's not, who I see. And I don't know. I feel like the people that read love to read, and they read a whole hell of a lot. So, again, I know that it's in the spaces that I'm in. I probably don't spend a lot of time with people because we just don't click. If there's somebody who is not going to read at all, not saying that means I'm like, okay, you have to get in my life, but we're probably just not going to super click. So, it's definitely confirmation bias to an extent.
Sure.
I wonder how much of it has to do with the accessibility of publishing, of people, of maybe more people than ever wanting to put out their own books and being able to do so successfully, which I know it can be a double-edged sword, and people complain about the market being, flooded with, subpar, whatever. To me, the only thing that's subpar on that is use of AI. Fuck you very much. If you, that's not writing.
Right.
You don't go to a restaurant, get your food delivered and say, I'm a chef. Like, fuck you. It's not. Right. But anyways, that's, I'll move that soapbox out of the way. But I think
we very much agree. So
we're right there with you. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's one of those things. Sometimes I wonder, and again, this probably is just maybe my little echo chamber that I live in, but I love that so many people can write and so many people can put their stuff out there. And I think sometimes that's actually encouraged a lot more reading, because I don't know about you guys, but like I was always a huge reader, huge reader. But before I published, I didn't really try to seek out independent horror and independent voices. Like, I didn't even know how, and so sometimes I wonder how much that has to do with it, is people, have something they want to say, they put it out there, they suddenly realize how much is out there, they make the connections, they start doing all that, all of the reading and everything. I don't know how, if we're talking about the economy and things like that, I don't know how that is going to affect things going forward, as far as like, we're in a little bit of a bubble right now, a little horror bubble, and the things I've heard have kind of indicated that that's probably going to dip, not just with horror, but just with books in general, because I don't know, people are going to have less money to spend, things like that. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to go. But I just keep coming back to, I'm lucky enough that I don't my living is not contingent upon what I sell, and as long as I'm able to write for myself and put it out there, like, I don't know, I'm just going to keep doing it. And I very much hope everyone else does too, to the extent that they can.
Yeah, I think I really like,
it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I really like what you're saying with that, because it is a double-edged sword, that there is more people writing, and like occasionally, like, I'll just download something that just looks like fun, or like Splatterpunky or something like that on like Kindle Unlimited, and I'll read it, and clearly, it hasn't been through. But I would rather that than kind of the old school. I am so glad that people can come out here and just like that this person can't say, oh, we don't do novellas, and so you have to be like, oh, I guess we don't do that, so screw this idea in this book. And like there was so much gatekeeping to getting, it's like I've also
particularly
been
for people of color.
absolutely when everybody, like, it's always been like, and I talk about this a bit lately about the concept of literature is something I kind of hate in general. Like who chose these books as literature? Why is Shirley Jackson horror, but Edgar Allan Poe is literature? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why are we like, who has gate kept all this stuff to say this is the great stuff and this is the. So I kind of like this era that we're in where it's like, and I mean, as much as we, Amazon is terrible, but the ability to publish books without having to, like, as much as I can't stand Amazon, like as an organization and a company, I am glad that it offers an opportunity for a lot of authors that would have never seen the light of day that can, and as an independent horror fan, like, it's like there's a lot of people, like, I mean, you go through you're getting published, but like there's a lot of people who are really just putting it out themselves and like and they're because it wouldn't fit in any other narrative, you know what I mean? And and having that ability right now is super cool. And I do think that I do feel like, I mean, for me at least, and I know the other people, like in my horror reading communities, like we kind of do feel like there's like, it's like punk rock, you know what I mean? Like something's like ours, exactly, and like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like, it's like, we're doing this regardless of the like clearly Penguin isn't putting out Wrath books, and you know what I mean, or you know what I mean, and like all these people are able to, and I mean, and he's a pretty big writer, you know what I mean? He's got a movie made out of one of his films, or it is one of his books, but it's not gonna it's not happening. So I really do appreciate that aspect of it, but and also Ghoulish is super cool. So you're
yeah, Max and Lori are the actual best. Shout out, by the way, to the festival. Anyone who's listening, the Ghoulish Book Festival is in mid-March. It's the weekend of like March 14th. I always fuck up the actual date there. But in any case, it's a hell of a lot of fun. It's in San Antonio, Texas. And it's nothing but all of the weirdest freaks hanging out and having the absolute best fucking time. So this is not a paid endorsement. I just want you guys to come. It's amazing.
Oh no! Even if
I love weirdo freaks,
even if somebody promoted, like, this is what we're here for. This is like the kind of stuff that we like.
Time on the show, you can do that. We're all about it.
Did you grow up on horror? Were you like a
yeah, very much. It's just an aesthetic that has always made me just deeply happy. It's it's like I would rather have like a terrible horror movie than no horror movie at all. Right. Because it's just the like, I feel like one of the like quintessential sort of moments for me, I just remember being like, I was a kid and we had just been to the library, we were leaving, it was dusk and it's like getting on towards fall, like school had just started back, and I've got my arm full of books and there's the wind kind of skitters past and these leaves kind of swirl, and I remember thinking like, oh, fall's coming, that means Halloween's coming, and I was like, oh, we can decorate when we get home. And then like for some reason something clicked. I was like, I could keep everything decorated, it could be horror all the time. And I realized I was like, yes. And so I've just been chasing that exact like anticipatory delicious little thrill like my whole like life. It's like it's that I mean, there's at my house there's Halloween decorations for Halloween, and then there's the all year round Halloween decorations.
100%.
Yeah, that's just it's how it goes. It's yep. That's what I want like all the time, and so yeah, it's just what a fucking time to be a horror fan too, because again, like you guys were talking about, like the indie horror films being so just absolutely fantastic, like people being able to do things that you never are going to see like in right. mainstream anything, and it's just absolutely stunning. It's completely stunning. And I don't know, it's I was a reader long before I was a writer. And I'm so happy to be immersed in all this, just to see all this. Because I mean, like, I feel like on like a weekly basis, I come across either a book or a movie or something that gives me that just total thrill, that connection. And then over and above that, like, though I am just in awe, because I definitely, I feel like I'm better at symbolism than I used to be, but I still tend to be fairly straightforward in what I do. But then I have so many colleagues and friends and compatriots who think around corners in these amazing ways. And I'm reading Kyle Winkler's latest right now. His stuff is amazing. It's like nothing I've ever read before. It's a little bit like, his writing is kind of like taking a hallucinogenic drug. Like, it's like you're like, I'm not sure exactly what this sentence means, but I feel it expanding things, and just to be able to access, that's what's so fun for me, because there's still that core creepy, like, haunted house, like, that kind of moment. That's still very much core to it, but so is all this other expansion. So is all these, just, I don't know, the ways that we can access what scares other people.
Sure.
And this is another one of my soapboxes, and it's not my soapbox, it's one that I learned of from people who are much smarter than me. But the reading diversely thing, cishet white girl, suburban, like literal suburban soccer mom, not something that occurred to me as much that it was something I needed to seek out until I delve into indie horror. And then I start, Violet Castro, I noticed, talking about it a lot, and Angela Louise Colon and folks like that were talking about, hey, you have to seek this shit out, and it matters. And I was like, oh, dude, you're totally right. Let me look into this. I need to do better about this. And it's so, sometimes I get shit from people who are like, oh, you're being too woke. And just let me go ahead and, no, fuck that shit.
Is that a problem too?
Right. Yeah. Oh,
sorry,
no.
I'm paying attention.
Yeah. Whoopsie. But I've had people be like, well, you don't need to act like it's a virtue. I'm like, I'm not. I'm talking about how cool it is. If you feel bad about yourself, well, maybe you should. But one of the things that's just been so cool is that I like to say that we know each other best through our stories, and horror is perfect for that, because to really get into someone's head, to really have empathy with who they are and where they're coming from, especially when it's very different from what you come from, knowing what scares them is incredible. And it's like, it's an empathy moment. It's an enriching moment. It's an enjoyable moment anyways, because I fucking love horror and I love being scared, and I love reading this stuff. But to connect on those levels too, to read stories written by a trans woman and realize that things like choosing a public restroom is in and of itself a moment of horror. Right. To read horror by people of color and realize that, like, finding the horror in those small moments, like, I don't know, it's so fucking enriching. And again, I think I've completely lost the plot of what we were talking about, but anyways, I'll stop gushing.
No, this is a lot of what we're talking about. This is what we're here for. And and
the kind of shit that we love. So.
Yeah, and I feel this way through, like, so much, like, indie horror and in general, and kind of like what you're saying, like, there's a movie that came out that won our best movie last year, which is The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster.
Oh God, I need to see that. See, I
do
live under a rock.
So awesome. Good. It's just about a very smart.
It's a modern Frankenstein that's.
It's an inner city Frankenstein story.
Right. She's trying to cure death because she's been around so much of it. And it's like, and it's really like, it's really just like one of those stories that, like, we were fortunate enough to have the writer director on, and it's just like one of those stories cool. That, like, you're like, oh, this is the feeling from this, and it's just like, and it's so important, and especially like in a time when they're trying to stop that, for us to take more of it in, because if they're stopping it, it's got to be dangerous. You know what I mean? And if women having feelings about generational trauma and their moms is a problem, well, then we should probably listen to that, because that's what's really happening. And anytime they're like, no, you got to be like, yeah, okay, I see. Like, thank you for pointing out what I should be paying attention to. And because these are these are the very real things that people deal with, and like you're saying, like through the horror lens, we get to get a real weird peek behind what somebody thinks is the problem. You know what I mean? And that's
one of my favorite movies last year was by a trans woman. I saw The TV Glow, which was the only movie that made me cry last year. And it was fucking beautiful. And the fact that, like, you know, everything that's going on is horrifying to me, because that was seriously one of the coolest movies I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's, but anyway.
One of the things I love about horror is that when you take the different perspectives and you look at, like, it's such a wide range and wide reaching genre that you can do things that are fantastical. You can do things that are over the top. You can do things that are,
absolutely,
you know,
you see
crazy.
New things as like a white dude that grew up in Vermont. Like,
right.
I'm seeing a lot more like really cool. I don't know. It's awesome.
But then when you also take horror, you take that fantastical stuff and you scale this back to a human thing, it can be just as scary, if not scarier, you know? Like, you have movies that have this, like, fantastical aspect, like The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, where it's, like, you know, a literal Frankenstein story. So you're talking about, like, undead and, like, reanimation and stuff like that. So you have those. But then, like, I also just saw a movie that also goes back to some of the stuff that you were talking about in your book. Like, I just watched a movie. It was going to be one of my recommendations, but I'll bring it up now. It was a movie called Mom. And it was a horror movie that was about postpartum depression. And it was a movie, and, like, the star of the movie is Emily Hampshire, who was, like, Stevie Budd from fucking Schitt's Creek, which... she was also in Humane, which she was awesome in that. But in this one, she carried the movie on her shoulders, and it was horrifying. Like, it was one of those movies that by the end of it, like, you could feel your skeleton wanting to come out of your body. Like, it was one of those unnerving, like, skin-crawling movies, but almost everything about it was very humanized. Like, there wasn't a whole lot in that movie that was like fantastical or crazy or, like, you know, anything out like that. It was all very human. And that's what I like about horror. You get the human side of it that can be terrifying, but then you also get, like, the monsters, you get the body horror, you get the creature features and stuff like that. You get all this huge stuff. And even though I've only read one of your books, from everything that we've talked about today, it feels like you go all across the board on that stuff, which I think is fantastic, you know? So keep doing more of it.
I try to. One of the things that's been really fun, and I've finally been able to, like, let go and just agree to it some. I used to be very hesitant to try something new on it. You know, I credit John F.D. Taft with the fact that I've written any short stories at all. It's because I was on a podcast talking about my debut, and they asked me, you know, whether I had written any short stories, and I said no, I didn't think that it was in my wheelhouse. You know, that I didn't think I could do short stories. And so when John was on the next week, they happened to say, like, well, you know, we had Laurel on, she said this, what do you think about that? And John just said, fucking do it anyway. And I don't think he was exactly, like, you know, like yelling at me or anything, but I listened, I was like, heavens, okay, fine, all right, you know, and so I was like, okay, you know, maybe I can. And when I got an idea, I did. And there've been a few things that have come up where I've been asked to write, like, in a certain genre, and I'm like, I don't really know that I have that in me. And I've just learned to just be like, you know what, fuck it, no, I'll find it. And because, you know, the other part of it is, and this is something that I would love for every writer to hear. And one of my very best friends, James Sabata, said this to me, and it was really helpful to me, because I got asked to write a short story for Shadows Over Main Street. And it was a big antho. It was like a third volume in it. And it's this, like, small town horror. And I was kind of intimidated. I was like, I don't know if I can write small town horror, you know, like, whatever, like, I don't know if I can do, like, this sort of thing. And he was just like, they didn't ask for just any small town horror. They asked for a Hightower story. So do a Hightower story. And I was like, okay, yeah, actually, that's right. Like, I can work within the parameters. Like, for example, I got asked to write a grimdark, which I had never done, and I didn't think I would find appealing. And then I was like, wait a sec, this is fucking hella awesome, you know, and wrote it and just made it a Hightower story. And so that's one of those things that, like, you know, I just think that you kind of just close your eyes and jump and just do it anyway, you know, and just see what comes out of it, see whether it's something that speaks to you. Because I think that for the most part, most of us can fit most of the things in our wheelhouse. We just have to be willing to do it within our voice, because it's the most fucking important thing, is to write within your voice. Because again, writers, you'll hear all the time that every story's already been told and there's nothing new under the sun, and that's fucking bullshit, because everything that happens to each individual person is important because it's happened to that person.
It's
And
filtered through a different lens.
Yes, absolutely.
That's why I love remakes. It's why I have a huge, honestly, it's why I'm a full backer of remakes, because you're going to see it through a different set of eyes. And a lot of the times it's really cool. So, I don't know. I love that kind of shit.
That's a good perspective on remakes, yeah, because they get a lot of shit, where
they get a lot of shit. And I'm like, I don't know. I've seen a lot of really fucking great ones. The Blob, the fucking...
The Fly, The Thing.
The Fly.
Yeah, The Thing. The Thing is we're talking about the good 80s version that is also...
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, well, and, when you talk about, Jonas, you mentioned the bringing down to the human level on some of these stuff where it's a little bit less fantastical. His House was one of my favorite movies that I've seen ever. I love a haunted house movie, and I love to see how people answer the question, why don't they just leave? That was one of the best answers I've seen. They're refugees. They can't. Right. And so, there are somewhat fantastical elements to it, but it only works when processed through that very human lens that they did a magnificent job of in that. It was just incredible. And that's another one of those cultural things, these are not things that I've ever had to personally worry about. But, looking at a horrific instance like that and seeing the impact of it and then how it works in a horror setting is was just incredible. I fucking love that movie.
Yeah. It really was a damn good movie.
And let's be real. Why don't people just leave? Because you can't just leave. It's the same thing with terrible relationships and all. People are like, why don't they just leave? You're like, well, because a lot of reasons: financial, emotional.
But you got to answer the question. I mean, if you're writing the story, you do have to answer the question. And while it certainly works, the financial aspect of it, and it's legit. You purchase a house, you put everything into it. It's a fixer-upper. I like to see different answers to that question.
It's such a good answer too, especially with the our phone cells don't work out here, or cell phones. Our phone cells.
Our phone cells.
Those either.
I look at it the same way as I look at the question when you talk about stuff like addiction. Why don't you just stop? Well, there's a whole lot of fucking reasons that you don't just stop.
Right.
And when they tell stories about that kind of stuff, you kind of dig into those things and you dig into those reasons. And I've seen that type of thing put into horror movies where it's you dig into the parts of addiction that are fucking scary and why you can't just stop. Because if you could just stop, drug addicts wouldn't exist, because eventually they'd just be like, oh, I think I'll just not feel like shit anymore. Yeah, that sounds good. It's not that easy. It's the same thing. You can't just fucking leave sometimes. Sometimes there's a whole lot of other reasons why you can't just leave. And His House is a fantastic movie. Yeah. Also very underappreciated, I think.
Yeah. I have one more sort of statement, I guess, before we get into the kill list. Anybody else has one? But I just wanted to say, in Crossroads, I got a very cool Stephen King survivor type feeling going on. Do you know that story?
I don't think so. I usually hear Pet Sematary on that one. So.
Survivor type is the one with the doctor who's stuck on the island. On a rock island. Okay. Okay. So yeah, give it. It's very short. It's very interesting. One of my favorite Stephen King short stories. Actually,
I'm making a note on my phone because I'll forget.
Yeah, survivor type. I don't remember which book it's in, but there's an aspect that I kept thinking about that story.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna check that out then.
If anybody gives you Pet Sematary vibes, they are hey, Pet Sematary. I love Pet Cemetery. I used to read it every Christmas break when I was in junior high or middle school. They call it now. Showing my age. But I used to read Pet Sematary every Christmas break, and I would say that they're very Pet Sematary. I feel like is one of Stephen King's more poppy books. It's definitely pop horror, comparatively to some of his other books. Where Crossroads is a down, dirty, horror like emotional journey.
Yeah, I'm getting crushed more and more the more I read it.
Thank you, and I'm sorry.
Oh no, I love it. I love it.
Well,
but my wife came in and I was laying down listening to it, and I must have just looked like I was dying of sadness.
I think that's a good reaction. Sometimes you can read a book and your reaction
great.
to it is just like, fuck. Like sometimes that's a good reaction sometimes.
And you love her, and really honestly, you love her neighbor. Like he's like it's nice to like see like a good dude in a book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that ends up being a good dude to the end, like because like it's
super rare for them to end up good.
Yeah, like you know what I mean? Like it's just such a great story. Like I love it. It's like once I was done with that, I'm like, okay, this is my new author.
Well, Linda Jones did such an amazing job with the narration on that too. She was fantastic. I was a little bit apprehensive because I was like, how is this going to go? Like, how is someone going to capture this? And she just did it magnificently. And I've now decided that instead of having Morgan Freeman narrate my life, I would like Linda too. So.
Nice.
She did an absolutely fantastic job. And, I've gotten to get to the book points that there are books that I'm going to listen to. And typically I would have bought your book. It's actually kind of, believe it or not, Crossroads is more the kind of book that I would buy than I would listen to, but it was just available to me immediately. And somebody said it and I went there and I had a credit and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna listen to it. And it just was available to me at the time. And but I am also like a fan of people listening to books as long as they're there are some that are better than others in the listening. Crossroads is done perfectly and conveys, I feel like, the emotion of the book. I feel like and years ago I listened to Clockwork Orange, read by Tom Hollander, the actor, and it's like really one of the best media things I've ever consumed. Like just like as far as like just a piece of media, like on regardless of what it was. And then I kind of became a fan of listening to books. But I'm glad that people have the opportunity to listen to books because some people struggle with reading comprehension, and I think
absolutely,
and busy lives. Like it's I read a lot now, but there's been times in my life where between like stand-up comedy, my podcast, working, being a partner, being a parent, having dogs and everything like that, it's like my only time that's a break is in the car, and I can at least like take in the story. And I've listened to a lot of good books over the time, and now I have something that I'm reading on Kindle, something I'm listening to, and also something I'm reading physical copy at all points right now, which makes getting book amounts read
numbers up.
You know what I mean? So but Crossroads and its availability and its everything like that is if anybody has struggles reading, it's okay. Like that's just who you are. Please go ahead. We fixed that. Now you can have somebody read to you. Like that's
pretty rad.
Anything before we get into kill list, anything you're reading right now that you're before even the recommendation part, but is anything that you're read in the last year or something that you're just like have to give some love to?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a floodgate of a question. But
what did you do, Ryan? Come on.
No, I've been lucky to read like just an insane number of really, really excellent books. Emma Murray's The Drowning Machine is a collection that I read recently. It just came out that is just fucking kick-ass, very feminist, very dark, very, very just gorgeous. Max Booth's Abnormal Statistics is a collection that will absolutely just rip your soul out in the best possible way. And I'm not just saying that because Max publishes me. I also really think that they're an amazing author. Oh man. Okay. Kyle Winkler, I'm reading his new one, but Grass Hands is what I read last year, and it's sort of maybe like a bizarro type horror thing, but it's absolutely incredible, very, very enjoyable. I'm reading Cooper Beckett's Osgood series, the which is just really lots of fun. There's Spectral Inspector, and there's ghosts, and there's gore, and there's all kinds of, sex and queer rep and all kinds of fantasticness there. And then S.H. Cooper is one of my favorite authors. She's incredible. She is mostly independently published, and Inheriting Her Ghosts. I don't remember when she put that out, but it is just absolute Gothic fucking perfection. It's beautiful. It's incredible. So yeah. And I'll stop there because I will probably just go on till the end of time.
I think that's an absolute I could just let you talk about all of it. Like I'm just so in love with the writing world and what people are putting out right now, and that there's so much good, and that people are still writing and people are still reading gives me a lot of happiness in general. I think I'm a Eric LaRocca fan, and to see the reception that they are receiving from their new books makes me very happy, because
Eric is such a sweetheart too. Like it's nice to see like really good people succeed. It's absolutely lovely.
Absolutely, they may or may not be on in the next couple of weeks. Who knows? I'm very excited to have Eric. I like that Eric's books are getting the attention that they are. It's always great to see queer authors in the time of so much such direct, obvious oppression still just existing on that great level. Also, I feel like their books are Dean Koontz, they're not. You know what I mean? They are. It's a different animal, and the fact that there's a lot of people reading those books makes me happy. Not that I need books to be esoteric, you know what I mean? But but it is nice that people are. That's happening. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, that there's a market for it. Absolutely.
And to see them getting interviews in Vulture and stuff like that, and in the state of the world, can remind me like little bright lights. And I mean, it's the same with your work, and the same with what's going on. That there's people are out there being like, no, read this, and then you read it, and you're like, oh. This is there's real shit going on. There's real good books about real good shit.
I do want to throw one more out there. It's Your Body Is Not Your Body. It's an anthology through Tenebris Press, and it is all trans horror, and it's just fucking kick-ass, because that's another one of those things, just reading the different takes on that and where people took it, and just opening a sheltered cis person's eyes to certain things, that I just absolutely loved that anthology. It's incredible. It's amazing. So I'd highly recommend that one. Tenebris just generally puts out really kick-ass stuff. So
love it. All right, Graham.
All right, we're doing the kill list. All right, here's the first one. Michael Myers, The Shape, or Leatherface.
So what am I who am I killing, or who am I fighting, or what's the
who's your pick? Who's your favorite? However you want to do it.
I'm gonna go with
full
Leatherface.
open interpretation.
Yeah.
Leatherface.
Leatherface. Yep. Yeah, I'm a Leatherface guy over all of them. But what movie would you remake?
Ooh.
It could be anything. Doesn't have to be horror.
Trying to think, because I feel like there's some that have been wow, that really could have been done better. Unbreakable.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I feel like the movie started in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they followed it up with some other movies that weren't as good.
Yeah.
If you could erase one movie or book from existence, what would it be?
The Bible.
Hell yes! I'm glad I threw that in there.
Answer ever.
Fuck yeah!
Yes.
And I will add to that. I am a spiritual person, very much. Have a good relationship with God. Bible has done so much fucking damage.
Yeah.
Because it's all a parable, and nobody understands that. So
yeah,
scrap it, start over.
Love it. Incredible.
Fucking best answer so far.
Alien or aliens?
Aliens.
All right, that's Ryan's bit.
That's my
Yeah. Okay, and Ryan, remember, there's another one after this. Basement or attic?
Basement.
All right, and favorite kill of all time?
Okay, this is amazing. And this also gives me a great opportunity to tell you about a movie that no one's fucking seen. It's a remake of I think it was an Italian movie. I believe that the title in America is Down. It's an elevator. It's a haunted elevator. And it's just this wild, like, insane movie, and it has like literally everyone in it that you've ever seen. It was the release was buried because it came out in September of 2001, right after 9/11, and in the movie they reference like Scud missiles and like the Twin Towers and stuff like that. So like we were like, why has no one seen this? And we get to that part, we're like, now we understand. Okay, they buried this thing, but it has everybody in it. But okay, so this kill is fucking amazing. There's these two, it's like I said in the 90s, these two rollerbladers, and they're going through New York, and they're doing like being kind of obnoxious, like they're jumping on cars, they're doing all this wild shit, they're racing each other. One of them goes in a parking lot garage, gets fucking sucked into this haunted ass elevator, rocketed up like 80 some odd floors within like 2.1 seconds or something like that, launched right the fuck out the door on the top level, straight through the glass, shatters through it, goes flying all the way down, and fucking hits the ground right in front of his friend, like busts like a watermelon. I was like, holy shit, that's the best scene ever. I was watching it with my friends on our movie night, and we watched the same movie again the next week because we got to see that scene again.
That's fucking awesome.
I have to see this movie. Like,
I just looked it up.
It's
I just
so
looked it up.
good. Did you find it?
Yeah, it is from 2001. Okay. It's called Down, also called The Shaft, is also what it's called.
Yeah.
It's got Ron Perlman, James Marshall, Naomi Watts, Michael
Oh my
Ironside.
God.
Like, it's got a lot of fucking people in it.
It just keeps going. Like, people come on screen, you're like, you too? Like,
you're like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like you can stream it on AMC Plus, which may be Shudder also, but you can definitely stream it on AMC Plus. So, yeah, I'm fucking down to watch that movie.
Yeah, I'll watch that immediately. So that looks absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I'm looking at the thing of it now. Yeah, rad.
Yeah,
thank you, Laurel. You are rad. Like that is I knew you were gonna be rad, but like that is like
I didn't know, but I've been sold. She's rad.
Also, like, just look at the cover. The cover rules.
Right. Yeah. I've seen that like available, and always was like, well, that's probably like the devil, or devil or whatever.
Yeah.
I was always like, I'll skip that, and now I'm so bummed I skipped it because now it's on. I don't have AMC. It's like the one thing I don't have. But I'll find it. That looks fucking rad.
Yeah, you have to let me know what you think about it. But
absolutely,
definite favorite kill of all time.
Cool. Now it's time for recommendations. We will go around the circle, Laurel, and then we'll land on you at the end. So, Jonas, what do you got?
Okay, so I already threw out Mom. That one just came out on VOD. Watch that. Also just came out on VOD is the movie Companion, and that's the one that has Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid, and it fucking rules. It's super fun. In the theaters, Heart Eyes is actually awesome. It's a Lifetime movie with a slasher, so it actually fucking rules. So those are for like streaming and theater. Physical media, I got a couple of really cool ones that came in through Vinegar Syndrome. The first one is a movie called Divinity, and
I love that movie. It's insane.
Yeah, it stars Steven Dorff. He is a CEO in a dystopian future, and he creates a immortality serum that goes real fucking bad for him. So, and this one, Street Trash,
pretty dope.
The spiritual sequel to the 80s, Splatterfest from Vinegar Syndrome. Really cool release on that one as well. That's what the cover looks like. Melt the Rich for sure. So those are the physical media ones. Music, I'm gonna throw out a band called House of Protection. I just kind of got turned on to them when I was going down a music rabbit hole. It's two dudes. It's a lead singer who does also guitar, and then a backup singer who also does the drums. And they do a fusion of like punk and metal and a little bit of hip hop, and it's fucking awesome. They only have one EP out right now, and they have a bunch of music videos on YouTube, so you can check that out too. Oh yeah, and then also a comedy special that just dropped on Netflix today. From
Rosebud.
comedian, Rosebud Baker.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that.
It's great because she films it in a really cool way where she films some of it while she's 8 months pregnant and some of it while she is 11 months after having the baby. So
cool.
it's a really cool. It's called Motherload and it fucking rules. So yeah, that's what I got.
All right. I'm gonna be real shitty to our listeners, I guess, or anybody. I don't know, because these are mostly on Apple or Screenbox. But on Apple, I watched The Gorge. It was fun. I really love Miles Teller. I think I'm pretty in love with him, I think. And Anya Taylor-Joy is fantastic. Just watching those two, it's a lot of just them like looking at each other from a distance and then kind of talk. But like, it was a great ending and stuff. I really loved it. Delicate Arch is on Screenbox. Just anybody, please fucking watch this movie so I can talk to them about it. It was written and directed by Matthew Warren. There's a character in it named Ferg that I absolutely love them. Please somebody fucking watch this because I have theories and it's such a good movie. It's kind of like it's I got Outwaters-esque themes because it's like found footage in the desert, but there's a good setup and stuff. And I don't want to give anything away because it's very odd in the way it's filmed and the actual film and stuff. So, but I just want to talk to somebody about this movie. The other thing, I think the best TV show now on television that's not, now that What We Do in the Shadows is gone, is Bad Sisters. Bad Sisters is about 5 Irish sisters, and it's just fucking incredible. They'll do anything to keep each other out of trouble, and it's the fucking best. I love that show so much. Bad Sisters, plus PJ Harvey does the opening theme, and it's a gorgeous song. And for music, real quick, just McCluskey dropped an EP. They've got an album coming out. McCluskey, the fucking legendary McCluskey, is back with an album called The World Is Still Here, and So Are We. And they've got a single out called Unpopular Parts of a Pig that fucking fucks. It's so good. Also, To the Grave, my favorite violent as fuck vegan band, just released a single called Forced Diet Reassignment, which is a great call out to cattle decapitation's forced gender assignment. So it sounds like cattle decapitation, more or less. It's brutal. It's hardcore. I love it. That's all I got.
Dope. Real quick, I haven't watched a movie that I've enjoyed in a while. So I'm going to, but I will suggest Dexter, Original Sin. I really think they did a good job with it reminds you of why you liked Dexter to begin with. The acting is great. It's nice to see Christian Slater acting again. Not that he's not popped up here and there, but like him like in a role.
He's in a lot of failed pilots for like 10 years in a row.
He's in my category of favorite. My favorite thing of celebrities. I have a favorite celebrity list of celebrities who have tried to bring a gun on an airplane, and he's one of them. It's just a funny thing to me. It's just a funny thing. Axl Rose, what was that crooner, 80s, 90s Italian guy? He was a singer. Everybody loves him. He's like handsome and anyways, he tried to bring a gun on a plane. I just love Christian Slater trying to bring a gun. Anytime you're trying to bring a gun on a plane, I think you're kind of funny. I think it's like if you've hit that point of celebrity where you're like, I'm going to bring a gun on a plane. I don't know. I think it's like
a celebrity that tries to smoke on a plane. You're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like we haven't been
that's one thing. but it's like I'm Christian Slater and I'm just gonna bring a gun on an airplane. I don't know. Like that's a
See if you
it
can.
tells it a whole.
Yeah.
I
story.
need this
You know what
where
I mean?
I'm
Like,
going.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
story told in that.
Yeah.
He's like, have you
here
seen
are
what the
my-
fuck happens on planes? That's what this is for. Like,
Here are my book suggestions for the week. We mentioned Haley Piper earlier. I'm gonna say The Worm.
Mike,
and
I
his
love
big-
that whole series.
It's so good.
Have you read any beyond the first one?
Yes, yeah, and they're all very good. And it's if you like cosmic horror, you know what I mean.
Is that the first one?
Yeah. The like it sticks the landing better than I think any series I've ever read.
Yep, and
Just
she's just
kicked
great
ass.
in general. These are kind of like companion ones. This is PH3 or Patrick C. Harrison 3 wrote 100% Match, which was supposed to be a short story and then didn't work out, but then they turned it into a little mini book, which I kind of like. It's a set. These are splatterpunk books, so you might want to just check triggers and all that sort of stuff. Then he also wrote Grandpappy, which is an interesting little extreme horror splatterpunk book. They're both pretty solid. And then I am halfway through, but I'm going to go ahead and recommend it. Handyman, the new one by Aaron Beauregard. Aaron, beyond being a friend of the show, I really am enjoying this book because it's more I don't know, I don't want to say mature, but it's like it's like a like I love a lot of his work, and but this is very like a more like novel-ish novel. I mean, it's still him, but it's more like really focusing on character building and things like that, which is cool. So it's kind of cool to see the sort of progression in his work. That's where I'm at. Laura, what do you got?
Like almost nothing I say is going to be particularly new because that's
That's
just
fine.
not really how I consume media. But so movies, I watched The Demon Disorder on Shudder, which was really fucking awesome. I really dug that one, and it had Walter from Fringe in it, so that was automatically a win.
Yep.
I dug that one. Music, I tend to listen to the same shit over and over and over and over and over. One of my favorite bands for that is Black Lab. And just out of interest, there's his song "The Road" is what very much calls to mind Crossroads for me. So it's a really, really good one. It's kind of depressing and dark. I read more than I do much of anything else, and I have just again shit ton of recommendations. I was going through my Goodreads to see what I had read like relatively recently, and From the Belly, I love aquatic horror. Water scares the shit out of me. And
too.
From the Belly is just it's aquatic horror. It's a whaling ship. There's just some of the best body horror. There's some just like some grief horror in there. It's absolutely killer. That's another Tenebrous title. That's absolutely wonderful. It's by Emmett. And it's Nahil, and I'm from Kentucky, so I'm afraid I'm going to butcher it. But that was incredible. In the Valley of the Headless Men. If you're not reading LP Hernandez, you absolutely should be. He's just got an incredible authorial voice. His stuff is always his collection, No Gods, Only Chaos, just blew my mind. One of the best, and I didn't really used to be that into short stories, but I just have developed a palette for it. That his stuff is wonderful. And then one that I really recommend for people, like especially right now in this climate. T.C. Parker, she has a series. I think she calls it like the Hummingbird universe or something like that. Hummingbird is the first one. It's a collection of 5 novellas. And it's brutal, and there will be moments where you're like, okay, exactly what I wanted to happen just fucking happened. Just brutal and really excellent, incredible writer. And the continued stories within that are very like, they're sort of Terry Pratchett, if Terry Pratchett wrote really fucking kick-ass feminist horror. So that's one of those ones that I feel like is like a combination of great escapism and also like, you're like, I feel like I just fucking fisted, just so. Anyway.
I love it. That's a great review. Make you feel like you just fisted someone.
Yeah, that came out probably weirder than that minute too.
That was great. It was perfect. I'm going to read it now.
Well, you are really, really awesome, and
It's awesome.
Thank you.
one of the fun things about this podcast is to be able to talk with some of our favorites, and you're easily one of my favorites, and I love that when we bring our favorites on, they 99% of the time ended up being really rad people as well. So thank you so much for taking the time out here and creating more great stuff, and really giving it to, like, we need this world needs this, and thank you so much for providing that. I hope you have something new coming out, and we didn't even get into, do you have something on the way, or?
Yes, yeah. I have a novella in the Shortwave Killer VHS series that is coming out in November. It's called The Long Low Whistle, and it's another cryptid. So that'll be kind of fun. And I've got some stuff that's due that I'm not going to think about right now because I'm behind on deadlines. But I'm also my real fun giggly one is I don't know if you'll I am getting to do a novelization of a film. I am co-writing it with Brian Keene. It is the film is One-Eyed Monster. It's about exactly what it sounds like. It's about a killer penis. It's stars Ron Jeremy, although it is not a porno, but it's a porno troupe, and Ron Jeremy's dick gets taken over by aliens, I believe. And look, I feel like
Ron Jeremy's dick is a monster. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, but the kills on it again. It's kind of chef's kiss. It's pretty fucking awesome. Yeah, so we're working on the novelization of that, and I can't wait to make my law firm. I love to fuck with sending the media and marketing people, like, because they're like, what's going on around the firm, and I'm like, hey, I'm writing a novelization of a dick movie. I'd like you to just put a blast out to the whole firm and let them know.
Company wide email.
Yeah.
To whom
Dick monster.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to that, and please come back if you need, when those come out, and we can blow them up or send them out to us so we can do whatever and get them on social media for just keep spread the word, because I
would be delighted. Thank you so much. I very much.
Or if you ever just want to come back and let us kiss your ass about your movies or about your books, I mean, like, we can do that too. Like, doesn't
just talk shit about people. I'm down.
Yes, let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even get into
equal opportunity podcast.
We didn't get into stuff that you don't like, which is
that sounds like it'd be fun.
Follow up episode of spilling the tea. Like,
significantly more F-bombs,
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, thank you, Laurel, and thank you everybody for coming out and checking things up. Thank you. We've been a little scattered on episodes lately. I got really sick, as I pointed out in the big thing. We had the election, which we decided to take a little time off and let people kind of get to the
talking about grief.
Yeah, you're right. We're not talking about. We just wanted to, we've been, sometimes it's I know that it's nice to escape with a good podcast or horror, but also it's good to let the world kind of settle. I don't want to be talking about silly stuff. A lot of people are genuinely generally afraid out there or scared, and just so you know that we all love you and support you, and if you always have a place with the folks at AGHP listeners. Please reach out if you just need to talk or you just need to anything, and also, I'm available to fly and beat up your bullies. I will just point my toxic masculinity the right way. Okay,
directly
so please. I will drink a LaCroix and beat up your dad. Okay,
dude. Seriously, I talked about the haters that I got earlier on in the episode. I'm about to go real beta male on these motherfuckers. Right?
We're just soaking it all in because that's what we're here for. And just so you know, all people, all colors, genders, sexual anything that you decide to be, we love you, and that's what we're here for. We have a Patreon. You can go check us out at AGHP 666. What are the members of the Army of the Goddamned, Graham?
The members of the Army of the Goddamned are Michael, Drew, Stephanie, Katie, Chris, Alan, Bacon Bits, Angela, Jasmine, Jason, Jake, Vivian, Ron, Kristen, Manny, Coleman, Jared, Michelle, and Brandon. We fucking love you.
I love you.
Also, shout out to Bacon Bits mom Janae. She's about to have surgery coming up on the 22nd. So get well soon on that.
Huge shout out.
Yeah, Bacon Bits rules, and so does her mom.
Yes.
United States, number 1, United Kingdom still solidly in number 2, Canada number 3, Australia solidly in 4, Germany 5, New Zealand 6. You have now tied back up with Germany. So good job, New Zealand. Thank you for. I was getting a little worried there. United Arab Emirates was is close on your tail, but you were able to move forward to that. Sweden and China, Turks and Caicos Islands, still solidly up there. Mexico, fucking love you so much, Mexico. Please reach out to us if you have something going on horror-wise in Mexico. Just let us know if you got a good horror writer or good horror movies or anything like that. I love you, Mexico. India, Poland, France, Italy, Netherlands, Ireland, Brazil, Finland, Czech Republic, and Puerto Rico. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please take care of yourself. We all need to do this together, and we love you. And until we see you next time, please start some fires and break some glass. Thank you so much.